Welcome to another edition of Cheesesteaks with. So, I don't know when this started, maybe like 10 years ago, my go-to question was when I met somebody, I would say, where'd you go to college or where are you going to college, right? I remember I was out one time, there was a group of people and I asked somebody that, and the guy said, I don't go to college, I work for my dad. And I was at a point in my life, I think I just started driving Uber, maybe I was thinking about it, but I was at a point in my life where I was like, kind of realizing that a lot of college maybe isn't worth it, maybe isn't for everyone. And I remember my response was like, I didn't want to lean into all my thoughts and, talk about that for the next 30 minutes or whatever. And I just kind of said like, that's cool. It was like, it was one of those things where I actually run into it a lot in my Uber where people ask me like, oh, do you have another job? And I don't usually like getting into all the video and content creation. So I just say, no, this is it. And a lot of the responses I get is, oh, that's fine. That's okay. And I always think like, yeah, I didn't think it wasn't fine until you said that's fine, So it was like a real like cringy, like awkward moment. I felt so bad about that. So I switched it up. So then I started asking people, did you go to college? That was working well until one time I ran into somebody that was almost like offended. He took it like, what, you don't think I'd be smart enough to go to college? So I'm like, shit. And at the end of the day, I'm asking these questions because I'm trying to like glean a little bit of information. I don't care if somebody went to college or anything like that. I'm trying to figure out, hey, did you go to Temple, like a real hardworking blues collar school, or did you go to, Villanova up on the main line, or did you go to Penn State, some fake school out in fantasy land that, Colt with a terrible football team? No, just a little Penn State beef. But anyway, you're asking these questions not because you really care about the answer, but you're just trying to gain a little information about it. So I switched it up to, what year did you graduate high school? And that works especially well in Delaware County. Basically, what I'm asking is, how old are you? So we can play that silly game of, oh, maybe you know this person, maybe you don't. And this question was working great for like 10 years until I came on your wonderful podcast, and I had a great time. But I think I was talking with you, Vinnie, and I was like, when'd you graduate high school? Because I was ready to play this who do you know in Delco game, and you said, well, we didn't. And I was like, I've been asking that question for 10 years and nobody ever answered that question. But I just thought it was really interesting because I don't know if all three of you didn't graduate high school. I don't know if you got GEDs.
Just them two.
Okay.
I did graduate.
I graduated, but I graduated cyber school. I didn't finish my high school tenure.
Okay. So, I'll get to that in a second, but basically I want to tell you guys like where I want to go with this conversation, why I think it's really interesting and really important, because obviously like right now, college and college tuition and college debt is a huge conversation. And I remember being 18, 17 years old and going into college and thinking like, this is absolutely insane. 17, 18 years old, you're making a decision of tens of thousands of dollars. And most of the people, myself included, I went to college. I always say I followed the crowd to college. Like, I think a lot of people go to college just because it's what everyone's doing.
Right. And that's a mature thought to have on your part at that young age. And that's the problem, is that it, like, fishes young kids in to, like, follow that, like, that college dream. Like, you're going to go to parties and you're going to get a great job afterwards and it's going to be such a great experience, and then you have $100,000 of debt and then you're, like, fucked.
Exactly. And that's why it was super cool to meet you guys because, like, you guys seem to have it all together. You're living out in Delco. Like, you're like functioning, contributing members of society, whereas I feel like there is this stigma or this like idea of if you don't go to college or if you don't take the traditional path, you're going to be living under a bridge or in a van somewhere. You know what I mean? And you guys, like, basically I kind of just want to know a little more about your story of like what kind of drove you to drop out. I thought it was interesting that like all, three of you had, similar experiences. I know you were childhood friends, so I don't know if this is something you guys like talked about together. And I'm also curious, like, as life has progressed, you guys are all in your 30s now, right? Like me. Yep. And so it's like, have you run into either roadblocks or conversations or things where you're like, it's just been a problem since then? Because my theory is, and I say this about college, like the second you graduate college and get that first job, nothing you did in college matters. Just like the second you get into college, none of your grades in high school mattered. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I just kind of have this theory that like, over time, you kind of like, it doesn't really matter what you did, So yeah, I guess to start, if you just kind of want to fill me in. Oh, actually, and I do, maybe this will be the transition, which is funny. You said you're the one who did graduate, right?
Yes.
Which is ironically the only person here who was also a fellow Uber driver. So for all those listening, if you graduate high school, you can become an Uber driver like us here.
Yeah, I mean, I had no. I don't think my mom would have let me drop out.
Okay,
that's the thing. My mom was, I wouldn't say strict, but like
Determined
to see me and my sisters do well. So like I didn't have that. Not that their parents were like not determined to see them do well. Like
right.
They were, I guess, just a little more relaxed of their situations. Like just everybody's in a different situation. I didn't have like I think Vinnie, you left to go to school early, right? Didn't you start?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
But I actually just got my story like reiterated in like recently because that was so long ago, and I don't remember what the exact reason was, but I remember I was having not so much like trouble learning in school, but keeping my attention to school.
Gotcha.
And I guess that can be considered having like a not necessarily a disability, but like needing like that extra, hey, focus.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
So I guess the school at the time didn't think that I was worthy, or I didn't need like that extra like IEP learning stimulation. You know what I mean? Whereas like
I want to say that we went to Upper Darby High School, so like there's just like just want to throw that in there.
So
throw that right under the bus.
Yeah.
But
for those who may not be familiar with Upper Darby, how do we
had a police station in our school.
There you go.
That enough. That alone says it all.
But a lot of the things of me not getting the education that I deserved or the attention that I deserved by teachers or whatever I needed at that time was based off my parents' income, actually.
No way.
So it seemed like people that were in families that were troubled or struggling got that extra help.
Interesting.
From the school district. And were like, placed in, areas that they got the attention that they deserved, rightfully. Right. But I also fell into that same category, but my parents were like more like stable, I guess you could say. Or
wow. So it wasn't necessarily that they said you don't need an IEP because you need help in school. They said you don't need an IEP because you come from a stable family.
Which is basically how they laid it out. And my mom had asked them this question, and they were saying, she's like, basically, so, I make this much of my paycheck, my son can't get the help that he needs. And they were like, unfortunately, that's the way it looks.
I think that's just, part of society, like welfare in general. Like if we just break it down to like the welfare system, like they put you in a hole. Because, like, I grew up poor as shit. Like, my mom was on Section 8. My dad wasn't around. So my mom's on Section 8, had food stamps. But, like, once you get past the threshold of making X amount of dollars, they cut you off. And you're not making enough to pay your rent and put food on the table.
Yeah.
So you're far better staying in that hole that they put you in. And there's no program to get you out of that hole. Like, there's none of that.
Yeah.
And it's the same problem. Is that, like, his parents probably, like, just met the cap. And it's like, no, you don't get the help. Wow, like there was never like you can get the help for like $20 a month, or like it was just done.
So dropping out wasn't the first option. The next option that I was given, at least by my parents, was we're gonna send you to a different school, and then music could also be your like major, basically. So like we want you to get everything, but like music could also be your main gig. And back then was when we were
all in a band together.
Yeah, we were playing a lot together.
Well, Steinman wasn't.
No, I wasn't in the band.
Vinnie and
I hung out, but I wasn't part of that band.
He was a groupie.
Yeah, exactly.
Same crowd.
Yeah.
And just, I think there's a really cool thing I want to add in. Like, you guys are like elementary school kind of friends, right? Like, way back. Like, same neighborhood. So, like, you guys grew up and had this experience together, and I think that's kind of relevant, and I wanted to share that with you.
Phil and I literally fist fought over scooters when we were children.
There you go.
Like that, 100%. And then my mom hates his mom now, still because of that.
No, really?
Like our parents hate each other.
Yeah.
Like I actually reconciled with his mom for the first time for no reason. Like I didn't hate his mom, but I just thought she hated me up until his wedding, which is literally just a couple years ago. Like now everything's straight. If I see his mom, it's all good. But like for the longest time, I'm like, your mom hates me. And this is all from like a scooter fight when we were 10.
That's hilarious.
All I gotta say, don't cross my mom, bro.
Oh, Mama Keller,
No.
she's a. So that's the other thing is that like we all know each other's parents, and like when I got engaged, his mom called me and was like excited about it, and like I'm like her second son. So like. And the same thing with his dad, like, and my mom too. There was this one story, and I don't know if we told it on the podcast before, but Vinnie came over, and we were in high school. And my mom has the heat like on 80 all the time. She's always cold. So he walks in, and he's like, "God damn, Mayor, your heat's on fucking death." And then from in the kitchen, from in the kitchen, she's like, "Well, if you don't like it, you can fucking leave, Vinnie." So that's how close we are.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I stayed, by the way.
I understand.
So what had happened was I got the option to go to a school where I can still get all of the basic general knowledge of everything that you get in a high school, but with music being the major. And what I had said was that I didn't want to do that because music was my passion initially. And I said, if you send me to a school to do music, you're turning my music into work, and then I'm not going to love it anymore. So, and I think that's kind of when my mom was like, all right, GED it is then.
So you were 15 or 16 at the time?
I was...
You were 17. It was senior year.
17.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I remember like the year that was supposed to be my final year was the year that I started, and I actually started my trade schooling. So after I got my GED, I went to automotive trade school.
Okay.
And learned a trade, and that's
didn't
kind
you
of
start a few months before your class would have graduated?
I started like in the middle of the school year.
Yeah.
So like I was already in trade school before my graduating class graduated.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you went from high school basically to trade school.
Like almost like straight to, yeah.
Gotcha.
So once getting my GED, it was like, let's go.
Yeah, the
Get
learning
moving.
couldn't stop. That
Yeah.
was the thing. You had to continue it.
Yeah, my dad's like, get a job.
So the GED, did that come with the trade school, or did you have to do that on your own?
I
or-
did that on my own. So I did whatever studying had to be done. Took the GED test at Delaware County Community College. Went there, passed it, and then...
And you did that before, like you were still, could have been in high school.
Right.
Could have been in high school.
Mhm.
How long did it take to study for the GED?
Not long. A lot of this stuff, which I'm kind of the person that like I'm a really good test taker, even if I'm guessing.
Yeah.
If I'm guessing, I'm like, that's right.
Yeah.
You know, kind of common sense thing. Like every like fifth question is always going to be C.
Yeah. Them the facts.
But I passed that pretty easily. I may have failed the first time, and I think the second time I went back. Yeah, the second time I went back, it was like but the first time I didn't fail by much.
That's interesting. It
was
makes me
minuscule.
wonder, like, how many ninth graders could take the GED test and
Right.
pass? And then if they did that, it's like, does that mean high school is kind of redundant? You know? Like,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I thought high school was more for the experience. Like, I know I didn't, like, dive into any clubs or, like, sports or anything. Like, music, like, our band was, like, what was my extracurricular activity, and I know it was the same thing for Vinnie. And, like, I remember...
But it's different because you had the personality where you could create something like that, and you could organize that, and you could run that yourself. You didn't need a teacher to structure that for you and just tell you when to show up. A lot of kids don't have that drive
100%.
and that mental organization to be able to fulfill the needs required of running a band, trying to get shows, trying to record demos, get a CD pressed, you know, all the steps that you took before you're even 20 years old. So I mean, a lot of kids need that helping hand, to structure
direction.
out and help flesh out.
Which
how do
is
we get
fine,
this
but
done?
for the kids who like don't need that, like you said, like you should be able to take your GED test at ninth grade and then like just start work, like get a few extra years on like getting your career together, like whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks that you like you start to miss things if you don't jump right into college.
Yeah.
And like how many kids are really ready to like do what they want
Right.
or know what they want to do when they jump into college?
Oh, yeah, dude. I meant to look that up. I was looking
Like
up
what
a lot
was your
of
major?
communications.
Okay.
But even that, like, I always say that. It's like, I love communications, but it just like I get upset thinking about it because I'm in communications. I went to Temple, which is billed as one of the best communication schools. I mean, it's in Philadelphia. Philadelphia's a great media market, as you know.
Right.
And like I'm learning about who invented cable television when like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram are like literally new at the time.
So I was
and I'm always like, dude, if I started YouTube in 2008, if I built up my Facebook in 2006, instead of being told by professors, stay off of Facebook, you might, not get a job if you post a picture with beer on there. Yep. Like, how ridiculous does that sound?
So I have a friend who I was in a hip-hop group with. His name's Jeff, and these guys know him. And he's a pretty prolific dude. Like, his lyrics
Wait, you were in the hip-hop group?
I made the beats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't
gotcha.
rap.
I was wondering if you rap.
No.
You guys have a more grunge, like, metal kind of appearance, and you rapping.
I don't even know what got me into making hip-hop beats. Like, that's a story for another day. I don't even know what got me there, but I did it. Yeah. And we made, like, 2 records, and they were actually...
Just creative overload.
I think that just started as a goof, dude, because, like...
Maybe. They were pretty... I felt like they were... The second record was awesome.
No, I don't mean, like, it ended up as a goof, but I mean, like, starting out when you were first making them, I think you were just goofing around, because, like, I still have a CD somewhere in this house. It says Willie's Beats on it.
Yeah, guy Jeff, he had told me, he's like, it's just like we started Irregular Minds 2008, like right when YouTube was like really starting to get big. And he's like, watch, one day, this is going to be fucking TV. This is going to replace the TV. Mm-hmm. And every time I'm eating, every time I'm doing anything, I'm mainly watching YouTube.
And who's this, Jeff?
This guy, his name's Jeff Caldwell.
Like, how old was he at the time? Like,
just a couple years older than me.
Right, and he's like, what? He wasn't a college professor, is what I'm getting at.
Right. No, not at all.
He could realize that. Yeah. And my college professors were telling me the exact opposite and talking about,
Yeah. I mean, I go back as far as, like, my math teacher saying, like, oh, you need to learn this. You're not just going to have a calculator in your pocket at all times.
You're right. I'm not just going to have a calculator. I'm going to have a calculator and a phone and my wallet.
And a video camera.
I never thought about that. Right. That's so... they used to say that all the time.
Yeah. But that shows you the difference. And it's not their fault, but that shows you the difference between the old school way of thinking and the new school way of thinking. Right. I mean, they were raised that way.
Right.
And they didn't have a calculator in their pocket at all times.
Yeah.
They didn't have a phone on them. They had to go get a quarter and run to the closest corner and pop it in. Yeah. Hey. But when you're only dialing 7 numbers instead of 10.
The payphone.
Right.
I mean, honestly, for a part of our growing up, we had to do that too. Yeah. So it's not entirely their fault not seeing like the future. Like, look at our parents.
You can't fault them for trying to impart the wisdom that they gained from their experience onto us. They didn't know that the tech boom was going to happen the way it did.
So they had more of life experience without this stuff than we did. So we were able to transition into it more and see the future.
Yes, it happened for us at a young enough age during a transitional point in our lives that we could still make that jump.
Right.
You know what I mean? We didn't have this hard time. It's not like we're 50 years old when the first computer came out. It's like, this is new, but I can handle this.
Right.
So whenever I go to Georgia, right, this is how, like, my aunt, she's in her 60s, and whenever I go to visit, whenever she picks me up from the airport, she has MapQuest directions. And this is like,
remember that?
And she has she has a smartphone with GPS on it, and she won't use it. But she'll be driving with the MapQuest in front of her face, like reading it, almost getting in a car accident. And I'm like, do you just want me to drive? Like, I know I don't know my way around, but I'll figure it out without reading a fucking map in my face. And my mom won't use GPS either. Like,
old habits die hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's so different. And like with my education, that's kind of.
So what's your story? When you dropped out as well?
I dropped out of Upper Darby.
Okay.
Because that wasn't going to happen. That just wasn't working out well. I was in advanced classes and stuff. Like, I wasn't failing. It didn't work out well. I failed my gym and health class. They wanted me to take it for like the second or third time or something. And I'm like, they wanted me to come back for a 5th year because of some kind of health class. Some weird fiasco. And I was like, you're joking, right? Like, I passed all my classes. I don't even have to take a math class because I have enough credits to walk right into college with all my math and whatever basics. You want me to come back for gym and health?
Wow.
Yeah. Good luck with that one, buddy. Yeah. I dropped my textbook on the desk in the counselor's office. I said, I'm not coming back. And that was pretty much the end of that. The prioritization of your education was weird, as far as Upper Darby goes anyway. I don't know the way it is in a lot of other high schools. But, like, to tell me that I don't meet the minimum requirements to graduate because of gym and health, that's insane. Now, I feel everybody should learn gym, and you got to be active, and you got to learn how the human body works, and everybody's got to see Chewbacca being born. That's a requirement. But I mean, to tell me when I have so many credits that I need to come back for whatever reason like that, that's insane. That's insane. Clearly, I'm smart enough to get my GED or whatever, walk in a high school graduation. I don't need your gym and health class.
Which is so strange, and I don't know if it's per student that they make these rules and regulations, but I only had a half a day my senior year. Now, mind you, I didn't give a fuck about school until 10th grade, and I barely gave a fuck after that. Vinnie and I both, like, failed 8th grade. We went to summer school together in 8th grade. Run a fucking muck of the summer school. Almost got ourselves kicked out of summer school for fighting every kid there. Somehow made it to 9th grade. Pretty much failed 9th grade, and then I did okay up until senior year. I did okay, and by 11th grade I had like distinguished honor roll, and by senior year I had enough credits to take a half day.
Oh wow!
So I don't even think I ate lunch senior year.
I did the same thing, but I did it backwards from you. You came in regular time and left half day.
Yeah. You came in later.
Yeah, I'm lazy, dude. I don't want to get up in the morning.
Right.
So I was like, can I sleep in? And they're like, we've never had anybody want to do that before. I guess. So they let me get away with it. So I showed up at 10 o'clock when everybody else showed up at 7:30.
Oh, wow.
Or whatever time it was. Seven. It was a weird time. It was like 7:41.
Yeah.
I think was the first bell. And I'm like, that's a peculiar time. Like, we couldn't have gotten to get... Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I said that wasn't going to work out for me. I finished online because I hated school.
You could have graduated, like senior year, walked with a class, but they said no just because of health class.
Yeah, I needed
Now,
like
did you have
elective credits and like gym and health credits.
So you did the 4 years.
I dropped out in my senior year.
Oh,
so
you like knew going into it you weren't going to be able to make it.
I think it was like midway through my senior year because I had my economics class. I didn't want to drop out until the end of the semester because I was actually enjoying my economics class.
Gotcha.
I enjoy learning. Like, I love to read. I love to learn things. I hated the structure that Upper Darby had. I didn't think like they were doing education in the best way. And I get it. There's a ton of kids, and my grade specifically, because I was 2 years below these guys. So my grade specifically had a lot of problems with kids coming in from Philly, you know what I mean, having to try to re-register every year to get the right people in the school who belonged in the school district and keep the people who didn't belong in that school district out of the school.
Gotcha.
It was during that whole phase of things where they were trying to make sure that they had enough resources to go around because the problem was they really didn't.
Right.
There was a lot of shit going on in the school that probably deterred them from making positive changes on the education side of things.
Right. Well,
like every
what was your
day,
graduation class? How many kids?
Oh man, that's a problem too. It had to be close to 1,000.
That's
That's just a problem for the school logistically.
Yeah.
But the other issue was the fights. Like, I know personally when I did have lunch, like the first half of my senior year, like I would rush down to the cafeteria, get my food, and sit down to watch whatever fight was going to happen. Because it was almost guaranteed that someone was going to fight, and it was almost guaranteed that a teacher was going to get involved. And then, like, on the off chance that the teacher got involved too much, they would get fucking hit in the face and knocked out too. Like, that was normal.
Yeah. That's crazy. I've seen videos. I remember seeing videos.
Yeah. Dude, I remember coming down Landsdowne Ave right there, and it was these two black chicks fighting right across from Bonner. And they literally, just like Bill said, grabbing each other by the hair. I remember the one girl ripping the other girl's weave out. And everybody on our bus was jumping up and down, screaming, freaking out, get her, get her. But, like, that was a daily occurrence.
Yeah.
It was a constant thing. I mean, I remember back in 8th grade when a lot of the Beverly Hills middle school students merged into Drexel Hill Middle School. And that was, like we had our own little Remember the Titans style football team that year where, like, we weren't cool with one another. And then by the end of the season, it's like, that's my brother. You know what I mean? We were like 14 now, you know what I mean?
Left side.
So, yeah, strong side. Hell yeah. Love that movie. But there was a lot of fights that year. And I remember there was a lot of, like, race-based violence, and there was a lot of teachers getting hit. I remember my buddy going up after this one kid. He clocks him. Everybody converges on the whole mess, and then the teacher tries to get in the middle of it and, as an adult now, God bless that teacher for trying to control that chaos. But that dude got hit, and I don't even know who did it.
There's no video here, but Steinman was pointing to himself.
Yes.
All right, I'm not even going to lie about it. But yeah, no, I wasn't trying to hit him. I went to go hit somebody else, and the dude stepped in the way and was like, "Oh shit, I just hit the teacher. Wonder what's going to happen now." Nothing ended up happening, by the way.
Wow.
I wasn't even the problem in that mess. I was just trying to stop other people from hurting my buddy because they were, trying to get him down and stomp him and shit. And I'm like, look, fights are fights, but I don't want anybody to die today, okay?
Yeah.
Like, that's a little too much. We're too young
Did the
for that
teacher
kind
go
of
down?
shit. He didn't feel well, let's just say
Yeah.
that. So, he backed up a little bit. But, yeah, no,
And
I mean...
I think with, administration having to worry about that, and now working for a school district and sort of having an understanding of, what they're actually putting their resources to and worrying about, it's hard to, focus on, the education side of it, too, when you have so much chaos in other places. You're almost running, a babysitting club. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, I mean, these stories right here, just from a couple of us, show you the daily occurrences. That's what is distracting from prioritizing certain, make sure that X amount of dollars make it into the budget for new textbooks. Make sure every teacher restructures their curriculum every semester to give the students the best learning experience. It wasn't always like that. It's, make sure that this teacher is protected during this time because there's a lot of kids and a lot more kids than adults, and if they decide to do something and the teacher has to step in, what kind of danger are they in?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's funny you say that because I remember when I know I've admitted this to you guys before, but I moved out to Fake Delco, Garnet Valley, my junior year, and I remember specifically
Just upper Delco.
The upper echelon of Delco.
Pinky up Delco.
Yes.
So I move out there, and you remember, I think every school does it, maybe Upper Darby doesn't, but you know how they have that messed up car thing. Everybody goes out and looks at the messed up car, and they say don't drink and drive and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember we were sitting out there. It's the first month of school, and we're sitting out there on the hill, and I was talking to somebody next to me, and I was like, I realized I was there for 2-3 weeks, maybe a month. And I was like, there's been zero fights since I've been here. This is just crazy. And I was coming from a Christian school when there was more fights there. And again, I don't know who was in them, as I point to myself. But I remember talking to someone. I was like, do people get in fights here? And he was like, well, I saw one fight once a year ago. And I was just like, it was very striking to me how and my whole time there, I did not see a single fight. And it really does speak to your point. I remember thinking the environment, and it's not just a no fighting. The parents were very involved in Garnet Valley. They would make this crazy dinner before football games. And just the whole mentality was just very different. And it's a really interesting concept, to think about, especially now looking back that I'm a little older, trying to learn in an environment where there's teachers getting hit versus learning in an environment where there's parents making you dinner. You know what I mean?
Right.
The school district I work for is an upper echelon school district for sure. And the first day I started, I'm walking down the hallway of the high school, and you see a kid walk out of the high school and he gets on his phone. Just answers a phone call. And I the dude I'm walking with, I'm like, is he allowed to do that? They're like, oh yeah, they treat this like a mini college.
Wow.
The kids get to leave for lunch and they get to come back.
Wow.
And us, if somebody's
So
device...
we did that, but we were never allowed.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Vinnie
can't
and
put
I-
a McDonald's half a block from the school and expect us not to go get it.
So, if a device went off on our school bags, made a beep, they would call school security. School security would come to our classroom, search everybody if that person didn't give up the device.
Oh, wow.
So if you were the dick who didn't give your phone or whatever you had up, everyone's CD player, anything electronic, anything with batteries that wasn't a calculator was gone, and your parents had to pick it up. And then now I see this kid just out in the hallway just answering a phone call. Like, it's no big deal.
And
so it's like, it just goes to show, like, when you're in like different environments, different areas that you grow up, more urban versus more rural, and more wealthy versus more poor. It's
right. It's a class thing as well.
For sure.
You know what I mean? It's a neighborhood-based class thing as far as your high school experience. I mean, and there's some people that could potentially listen to this and go, I went to Upper Darby and it was nothing like that, even if they went during the years that we went. But see, we didn't jump into those clubs. You know what I mean? We didn't have those clique type high school years that you see in like movies like The New Guy or something. You know what I mean? Like, I played football in 9th grade, but that was very cliquish. And like, none of us really got into the cliquish sort of side of high school. We just wanted to go through high school, do what we had to do. You know, I'm doing my time until I get out kind of feeling. Right. And like I said, I like to learn, but Upper Darby wasn't right. And I was like, for me, I'll take class on a computer. That's fine. I needed 2 classes to graduate or something by the time.
Fortunately for us, like, none of us were like into drugs or like getting real fucked up. I mean,
right.
Nothing to the point where like it fucked our lives up or even put us down
Nobody
to a bad
lasting
path.
down.
And we're all motivated. We're all self-motivated. Like, we want to actually do good. So like you were saying, like, you didn't go to college. Like, I mean, Vinnie went to tech school and I went to the Anthem Institute for Graphic Design.
What was that?
Anthem Institute. It was it was like the tech school behind the Marpleton movie theater.
Okay.
It was there for a while. It's like a doctor's office now and a Planet Fitness. But it was just one of those 1-year tech schools.
Bill went to school at Planet Fitness.
Yeah, where the Planet Fitness is.
And then what about you after high school? Did you go anywhere? Or?
I did a little bit in Delaware County Community College. I did start a computer science degree.
And that was after?
That was well after everything.
Gotcha.
I was in my like mid-20s when I decided to do that.
Steinman was also one of us that was like early on. He was like already working.
Gotcha.
Too. Like while he was in high school, he already had a job, and he was like
17. I was a mechanic. I already started working on cars and stuff. Like, I mean, I've been hands-on since I was big enough to hold tools, and I know Vinny is, and I know Bill's mechanically inclined as well. Like, we can all fix stuff. We can all do, you know, electronic stuff to some degree or another. So it was just kind of like, it made more sense to dive in and start doing it, because even when we were in high school, it was already starting with those rumblings of kids are going to college and graduating and not getting jobs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I didn't see any major necessity for college at the time. There was nothing that like pointed out to me, you have to go or else this horrible thing will happen. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of college. Bill Gates dropped out of college.
Right.
You know what I mean? Some of the richest and smartest people in the world. Now, I'm not necessarily saying I agree with a lot of what they do. Zuckerberg's in some hot water from time to time. But, I mean, point being, you can still be wildly successful without graduating college. It's not always... If you structure your learning well enough yourself, what does it matter if you did it or if you have that piece of paper from the university? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's about the knowledge accumulated.
So I was on the verge of going to Full Sail for recording. And if you remember this, because we were trying to find a new guitar player for our band.
What is this, Full Sail? Full
Sail in Florida. It's like a multimedia college. Anything in the entertainment industry is what they specialize in, but like the technical side of it.
Yeah, it's another trade school.
But that would have been like a 2-year school. It would have been like put me in like $45,000 worth of debt. And fortunately, I'm glad I didn't go because I know how to do it now, and I learned it all on my own. But I was just too poor to go. I couldn't get loans. My mom couldn't co-sign for me, so my only option was like that tech school, and that was only my backup plan. Because then, like at that point, I was just like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go balls to the wall with the music." And just like try to tour.
Is that what you did? Did you work in music after?
Well, for a while I just tried to start bands and like get the band successful enough to go on the road, and I just couldn't get anything to stick. Like everyone was just too busy with their like own lives, and he was busy with his tech school, and then like he had just started with he got with his wife, his current wife now. So it was just too much. Any band I was in just didn't really work out.
The music industry is insane.
It's tough. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go find a band in a different state who needs a touring guitarist, because I'm ready just to hit the road. I have nothing tying me down. I had a girlfriend at the time, but evidently music was more important than her. Because I found a band from Atlanta, and I had family in Atlanta, so it all just worked out. And then I moved down there, moved for a month, we rehearsed, and then I went on tour.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, 2 tours.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I made it happen, but then the band wasn't making any money, and they broke up. So
That's my cousins are really into music. They had a band too, and I could listen to them talk for hours about how, like, dude, even these like bands that tour internationally, if you don't own rights to the song, like, forget about the band making money. Even when the songwriter starts making money, like, there was a famous drummer. You might have seen this. I don't know his name or the band he was in, but he like just went on his international tour, and then he posted his paycheck at the end of the tour, and it was like $25,000, and it was like, he was like, yeah, it was cool. I got to eat for free on the road, and I got places to stay, so I don't have a lot of expenses. But like, my yearly salary is $25,000. Like, I'm not this like rock star, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Being a rock star is not all it's cracked up to
Yeah,
be. When
man.
you get down to the numbers of it, it's
people
not so
don't
glorious.
understand how complex it is to get like a tour going to like say like the BB&T Center or something, or what is it now, the Freedom Mortgage Pavilion.
yeah, who knows what it is.
Like,
It's the E-Center.
bands are bringing semi-trucks and a driver for the semi-truck, and they're bringing multiple semi-trucks, and then they're bringing multiple tour buses for their entire crew, and then they're paying their crew salaries. So like, once those expenses are eaten up and you've paid everybody, like, how much do you really have to bring home?
Yeah.
Like, unless you're fucking Motley Crue, that's a
Right,
whole
right.
different ballgame.
I've looked up the numbers from a lot of bands, you know, touring, just out of curiosity, you know, how feasible is it to be a rock star? And it's not.
Yeah.
I just watched a video the other
It's
day
not very feasible.
of a guy who, I forget what band he was in, but he was talking about buying onto tours. Like, promoters will, not promoters, it would be like the booking manager of like the headlining band would make you buy onto the tour and not pay you while you're on the road. So you would pay the band $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000
Just to go along with them for
just
the exposure.
for the exposure,
Wow.
right?
That's
And then
wild.
you have to solely live off your merch sales. But the problem with merch sales is that, like, if you're, let's say, Motley Crue, right? You're headlining, and your shirts are $50, and people are buying your shirts for $50. Well, you now, as a lower band, have to sell your shirts for $50. Next time you go see a band,
geez.
notice that it doesn't matter what band they are on the bill, all the merch are
It's
all the same price.
Oh, wow.
Because you have to sell it.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's nuts.
Yep. Because they don't want you to outsell them.
Right.
Because people are going to be like, well, I'd rather just get the $30 shirt.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Especially if,
wild.
like, you make a tour shirt too with, like,
With the dates and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they're just
'Cause
gonna
you're
buy
buying
your-
a shirt for the memory, not for the actual shirt.
right.
Oh,
So,
that's wild.
yeah, it's a very, very competitive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be caught buying them scalper shirts either, because you're stealing the band's money.
I got one of them scalper shirts for $5 outside the tower, and I got Lemmy's autograph before he died. I was at work that night, and my buddy calls me, and he was working security down the tower. He's like, yo, there's 2 tickets waiting for you to go see Motorhead and Anthrax, and if you don't go pick them up, I'm never going to do this for you again. I was like, but... Thanks.
Yeah.
And I just hung up,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
told my boss, I was like, bro, I got to go.
Yeah.
Like, you're closing the store alone tonight. And I was working retail at the time, so it was like, it was miserable hours. I hated
Yeah.
it. But I jet home, I get changed, I go pick up my girl, and we go flying down to the tower just before Motorhead walks out. I'm like, yes. Go outside, get to take pictures with the band. This was when Lemmy wasn't doing well, so he went straight onto the bus. Dude's out there, one of the band guys, like one of the crew, and he's like, all right, I'm taking stuff into the bus to get Lemmy to sign. I can take one more thing. I dove for all I was worth,
Oh,
man. I
that's
handed
awesome.
him that shirt. He snatches it, and I'm outside getting my picture taken with the other Motorhead members. And a guy comes back in, he's like, who got the shirt? I'm like, me. Dude, so stoked. I think it's in that cabinet over there.
That's
but,
sweet.
Yeah, dude, that was one of my favorite things.
So you were saying you were working retail. I guess I'm curious. After high school, what was your path? And this is kind of an open question to everyone. Like that, I know you went into
That was,
music.
yeah, that was my path.
But like, were you stuck working these jobs that were annoying? Or
We
like,
all
how
did
you-
retail at a point.
Gotcha.
And,
I used to work at Acme like all through high school.
Dude, I worked at Acme too, man.
Did you?
During college, yeah. Uber and Acme, we got that
This,
going
this is the
on.
genuine
worked-
Delco experience
Yeah,
here.
man.
So I worked from Acme till I was 20. I had to have been 10 years, so I was 26
wow.
because I worked there through touring. They let me leave
Oh,
and
that's
come
sweet.
back and work between tours,
Yeah.
and then I got to go back out on the
That's
road.
cool. Something I'm getting from this conversation is I'm getting this impression from all you guys is like you didn't just like drop out or not finish and like look at it as like a vacation.
No,
It
we
was
didn't.
like,
We didn't fuck off
you
at
need
all.
to. You don't just do that and quit on life.
yeah.
That won't get you anywhere.
So like, what was your game plan and what direction?
So the only reason I'm not on the road now is because I ended up having a kid.
Oh, okay.
Like that's literally the only reason that I'm not still pursuing music heavily.
Yeah. And so,
But like I'm still playing music. Like I'm
Yeah.
still trying to be in bands because it's just something that's like
that you love.
it's embedded in my
For
soul.
sure.
Like I
But,
don't
like, when
feel
you-
right if I don't play guitar for like a week. Like it's a problem with
Oh,
like
yeah.
I
I
don't
think
get I'm mentally just not good.
Yeah.
I'd go out and I'd see him in there at 10, 11, 12 o'clock. I'd go in and I'd hang out for a little while, 3-4 hours even. I'd leave at 4 in the morning and be like, dude, that's it. I got to crash out for a little while. I'd come back up noon the next day, bang on the garage door because I'd hear the music. And we lived half a block away from each other,
Yeah.
so we were always all right there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd bang on the garage door. Yo, dude, you're back at it already? Dude, I never quit. Are you kidding me? Yo, you got to go get some sleep. Like,
That's wild.
He never stopped. He was a machine.
That's insane.
I mean, I still to this day on the days where I don't have my son, I don't have to get him to school. Like
Yeah.
I'm up till 4 in the morning, and then I'll wake up at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and go to work.
Jeez.
Like he wouldn't even leave the garage to like go to the bathroom. He was like literally.
I was pissing in bottles.
Yeah.
Because the garage door, like it was a row home, so like the garage was in the home, but there was no door going into my basement.
Yeah.
So it would just take too much time away from making music to go upstairs.
He was like exactly like.
That's how determined he was. Taking a piss was taking too much
Yeah.
time away from music.
Yeah, he was like DiCaprio in The Aviator.
I've never seen that. I never went to.
Need more milk.
I mean, Vinnie and I lived together like recently, like just in the past couple years. And he'll tell you, I was up till 4 in the morning. Like,
Damn.
I have to
Do you
set
work in
1,000
music now?
alarms. No, I play music.
Why
now, but I
not?
don't.
Is the question.
So I was in a band called Purple to the Core. It was a Stone Temple Pilots tribute band, and I was getting paid more money playing in that band than I ever got paid playing music. So I was doing that for a while, but then I had some things to take care of that prevented me from being in that band. So I had to take some time away, and then they found a new guitar player, rightfully so,
Gotcha.
because
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
expect them to
Right,
hold
right.
it up for me.
Right.
So now I'm working on trying to start another band, but
Gotcha.
that's not easy either.
I know pursuing a passion, trust me, but that's why I got an Uber. Like, you got to pay the bills, you know? So, like, when you're coming off a tour and you eventually stop working at Acme, like, was it hard to make a move, like, being that you don't have the traditional education or resume?
Not really. I mean, I always have the mentality that I'm going to make something happen no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, there's no isn't an option in my head. I'm just going to make it happen.
Yeah.
So
It can't be. I
it
mean,
can't be, right,
The greatest
so-
success stories, whether they make billions of dollars or just enough to get by. Getting by is a success.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially in this crazy economy today. You know what I mean? But you can't say no. You can't ever doubt yourself.
especially
have
when
to
you
keep
don't
going.
have that college education to back you up. Like, you're literally, everything's on your own merit. Like, you have to prove yourself every step of the way. You don't have a piece of paper telling somebody like
Is
that
it
you
ever
can do
hard
this.
getting your foot in the door, or do you ever have to lie? You know, I
No,
know somebody who
so-
didn't graduate Temple, and he tells everyone that he graduated Temple.
So no, I don't ever lie. I just go into the interview and just state, like, look, like, this is what I can do. I assure you that I will get the job done, and
Yeah.
this is it. And I mean, I
I feel like
I've
you
only
run
had
into-
3 jobs.
Okay.
Like 3 real paying jobs. That was McDonald's, Acme, and the school district now. But like at the same time I got hired at the school district, I also got hired for SEPTA. And there was like an aptitude test to take before you got hired because I was going to be a bus driver, and I just picked the school district. Like
when
that.
you go into these jobs and you're like, yeah, I didn't go to college and I've been touring, having the time of my life for the past 3 years.
Let me be honest with you, I put that on my resume
Oh,
that I was
really?
a touring musician, because the way I look at it is like,
It's interesting.
it's one, interesting, but 2, like, if you even just critically think about that, like, that's not easy. You don't just get up, like, I'm not just gonna say, Ed, you just want to go on tour, and then we just
Right.
get into a car and we go tour.
That's true.
Like,
that's very
There's
true.
so much into it. You got to
Yeah.
book venues, and you have to put the work into the music. Now,
First off, that sounds like it would be a lot of fun, by the way.
it is,
Oh,
but
yeah.
there's also a lot of work to it.
No,
It's
I
not
mean,
just,
you and Ed just getting in a car and
And
just
going
going
on
on tour. Right?
Rock on, baby. A lot of trouble.
And now, mind you, like, I was only the touring guitar player, so they had already done the work prior.
Right.
But I had learned the songs traveled to Atlanta, tried out, got the job.
Took a risk.
I took a risk.
Yeah.
And like, if they ever question that, we can talk about that.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
explain.
That's a huge
So, like,
logistical undertaking to be able to complete all of that successfully and not have a tour fall apart in the middle.
Right.
And then live off of fucking Denny's for 4 months.
I mean,
that's your way to go. Danny?
yeah. I mean, we got food. It depended on the venue. It was such like being a low-level band, and we could have a whole podcast about this. Talk about it. Being a low-level band, there were some nights where we had guarantees, which means like it was a contract saying we're going to get paid $500 for the show. Some nights where there were door deals. The promoter wins on the door deals because it's always like, all right, after the first 100 people come in, then you start making money. And we're like, okay, that sounds good. But then the promoter doesn't do work to promote us or promote the show. So then 50 people show up and we don't get paid shit.
Yeah.
So it was a problem. It really just depended on the night.
Yeah.
How much we made.
Bill
I mean,
Burr has a joke where he's like just talking about like, chasing after something, and he's like, yeah, man, being on the road, showing up to an IHOP, eating the all-you-can-eat pancakes for $2.99, just stuffing your face full of pancakes so you're good for till the next day. Feeling like shit for the rest of the day.
So I will say
I
that
know that feeling.
yeah, we did well enough to get hotel rooms every night.
Oh, okay.
And we
Living
ate.
large.
We ate pretty well.
I slept in my car plenty times.
There were nights where we slept in the van, but there was a lot of Waffle House trips. There were some a nice restaurant we went to in Indianapolis. It was a nice shawarma restaurant. So we got a little fancy, but the other band that we toured with were geniuses. They would call like Domino's at the end of the night or like Chipotle and be like, hey, whatever you're throwing out, we will take it.
Nice.
We are a poor Christian band. We just need to be fed. And they were far from Christian.
I was waiting for that.
But they exploited Jesus and they got free food pretty much the whole tour.
Hey, honestly, Jesus would be happy. He wanted to feed the hungry. So.
Exactly. But it's just an undertaking to do that in the first place. So like, I figure if I put it on a resume, like that was a job.
Yeah.
Like I didn't get paid much, but it was still a fucking job.
But there's a lot of situations where you walk into an interview and your confidence plays just as much of a role as your college degree.
Have you guys run into problems? Like, I'm guessing, do you work as a mechanic? Have you worked as a mechanic since?
Not as a mechanic, but I am still currently in the automotive industry.
Gotcha. I had a flashback to my cousin Vinnie. I'm sure you know that movie. Yeah. Not as a mechanic. As a mechanic in my father's garage. But have you run into problems? Like, I mean, I guess if you're in the automotive industry and you have that tech school, it's kind of,
Yeah, like
feeds into
my
it.
resume is pretty shoddy because I've always jumped to the next best thing or the next person that wants to pay me more money to do the same job.
Gotcha.
Basically. And I want to say like every 2 years, like since my automotive career started, it's been like something new, or a recruiter's calling saying like, hey, Lamborghini's looking for a guy. And I know you know what you're doing. And so it's like, usually I like to try to like plant my roots and, stay there and get comfortable. But, the money just gets more green.
I was just about to say.
Well, if Vinny's employer is listening, you're on notice.
So, I commend you for that because, like, I like stability. Like, I like to stay in the same place and,
kind of
like, build those relationships and, like, and kind of build my equity as far as, like, what I can, I don't want to say get away with, but, like, what leeway I have in my job.
Yeah.
Because I like flexibility. So, my fiance's best friend's husband's father.
Try to say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, I know.
Just someone you know.
Someone I know.
So this guy
said that the position I have now was opening up at Aqua, and it was $90,000 a year, and you could work from home. But because I didn't know any more details than that, I didn't even pursue it. Like, and I'm making less than that.
You can tell him to call
but,
me, Bill.
but no, it's the flexibility that I have.
Gotcha.
Like, I can pretty much come in whenever I want, within reason. Like, so, which means I can bring my son to school, which is huge, worth the pay cut. Commend him for being able to do that, because like I just try to plant my feet and not leave.
My lifestyle was also a lot more different than these two, because I had started my life of settling down early. I was the first one out of the house, moved out with girlfriend, soon to be fiance, like right then, almost after. Like we had already gotten into a second apartment, and then boom.
I don't even think you were 21 yet, were you? Or was it?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah, because we did the whole, party thing, 21, 22, going to the bar every weekend, like being irresponsible. Fuck paying rent. We're getting drunk this weekend. But
priorities, guys, priorities.
Right, but we were out. But the thing was, between me and her, was that we always had this mentality of like, we'll figure it out. We always figure it out, no matter what. Like the hustle was always there, and with that is like I always saw the job jumping with the more money and the more money. It's like, what's gonna get me and my family now to the next step?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're in an apartment right now, and like I'm grateful for what we have, and like we live comfortable. But now I'm like, well, we need a house because like we're growing, and we have a dog, and they need a yard, and the kids need to be outside, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, what's gonna get me there next?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like when the offer's there, and it's like it's gonna push me that much closer to, moving my family to the next step, that I'm taking it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Have you ever run into problems of like, people question your background?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, really? And what kind of?
Yeah, like I've been on job interviews, and they've been like, what's with the jump? I've been asked like
the jump as far as
like, why can't you keep a job for more than a year or 2 years?
So it's not really anything to do with your education. It's more about.
It's more about like where can I get the next big.
It's them looking at your movement. Yeah, gotcha.
So which a lot of places nowadays, because I've gone to interview at other places, like my last job I was released from, and when I went to interview, I tried to get out of the automotive field, but then these places were like, yeah, well, it looks like you do a lot of jumping. I don't think you're gonna work out here, or it doesn't look like you even have the experience, so like I don't think that we should hire you. But then like the next thing another automotive place is calling me like, hey, what are you doing? Want to come over?
Yeah.
Dude, there's a high turnover in the automotive industry in a lot of ways.
There's a high turnover everywhere.
That's true.
People just
That's
aren't
true.
staying place anymore.
But I mean, that's why I wasn't interested in staying in automotive, because I got into it.
So you started as a mechanic.
Yeah.
In your father's garage.
Yeah, in my father's garage. As
a mechanic.
I didn't stick with that for
Did you go to
the
tech
same
school
sort of
too,
reason.
or
I backed out of tech school at the last second. Like literally the paperwork was in front of me, and it was like sign here, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Changed my mind. And it just seemed like too much debt for something that I was already doing. You know what I mean? I was already working in a garage. Why am I going to give you $40,000, whatever it was, to continue working in a garage?
Right.
That doesn't seem like a good business decision to me.
Right.
I might only be 18 at the time or whatever, but...
And it's so funny you say that, because I feel like a lot of majors, especially today, are like things you can learn on YouTube or things that people do. And like, sometimes I wonder, and I know there's like, I think film school is a really interesting idea. Cause I know there's a lot there. You can be like classically trained, right? And it's always good to like have mentors and stuff like that. But the value you would get for film school, I don't think it's worth $100,000 more of what you can find on YouTube from these same skilled type of people sharing what they know,
or even the same value of just getting your foot in the door somewhere.
Right. And right. That's a great
point. They
point.
say a lot of people who work in the recording industry say that like they're going to hire somebody who's been interning at a recording studio or apprenticing, learning hands-on, than they would with a degree.
Oh, wow.
100% they would hire them because
feel
they know what they're doing straight from the gate.
In the past, the school was an avenue to get that internship, to get that foot in the door, but now it just doesn't seem like it's like that anymore.
School seems more appropriate if you have disposable income than if you a requirement, like no other way. You know what I mean? School before was the gatekeeper, because there was no other way into certain industries.
Right.
I mean, now, I'm in the AV industry. I don't have to have a degree. There's certifications I can get, but I don't have to have a college degree to get an AV job. It's sort of like Bill's talking about. experience dictates your capabilities as much as anything else. You know,
and
if
now,
I've
how'd
got,
you get into AV stuff?
So it was like, it started out, you know, low level. I was a teenager. You're the gopher. You know what I mean? You grab tools for the guy on the ladder. You're not in a technical position in a lot of the time. But then as you do that, you learn how to make certain wire connections. You know, you learn how to solder. You learn how to make an internet cable or something. And then you start figuring out, all right, well, I made the cable. What does it get plugged into?
Yeah.
Plug it into this, plug it into that. Okay, look, you just made your first connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you just build little by little by little until you start programming things and you start doing all this stuff. And now, you know, I go to work and I get done my projects and I push a button and all of a sudden a projector comes on, a screen comes down. You know, all this shit happens from one single button push. It's like, that's really cool that I know how to do that. You know what I mean? And I am by no stretch the best in the business, but there's some really interesting people out there that you run into, and a lot of guys are willing to trade knowledge. You know what I mean? So you talk to them, you learn a little bit from them, you apply it to what you're doing, all of a sudden you did something really cool that you weren't able to do before, and you just build, you know what I mean, off of that kind of stuff. And there's minimum standards that you need to know to really make the best out of your career. But honestly, I don't even feel like it's that hard, but I have that kind of passion for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm a video gamer, so like anything like that is cool to me. If I can take a game and throw it up on 3 screens, looks a lot cooler than on one screen, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's awesome.
So I mean,
I'm gonna have to talk to you because I've been wanting to stream, but I don't really play computer. I definitely don't play computer games, and I'm like not very good at like new systems. And I think it'd be so cool to stream like N64.
Yeah.
Like I'd love that. But I want to connect it to my computer, and like I got to figure out how to do that. But
Just
like
get an
also
emulator.
have the live chat going.
True.
I don't know what an emulator is. What is it?
I'll tell you about
Yeah,
it.
You got to hook me up.
We can
But,
we can talk off
yeah.
mic. And
That's
get
what
you
I
all
think
set up.
I love about these two, is that they're always making something out of nothing. Like Vinnie said, like we'll always make it work.
Yeah.
Like there's never any like failure is just a roadblock.
Yeah.
You just jump over the roadblock and then you keep going.
Yeah, it's not an option.
It's not an option.
Like whether it even comes down to me, like, and I've done it before, like selling my music equipment to pay the bills. Like whatever the hustle is to make it work, whatever the sacrifice is to make it work, that's what's gonna get done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, am I, getting rid of Comcast because I can't afford it? Just so that I can have a little extra money to, give to my kids for school lunches. Then that's what we're doing.
You got to do what you got to do. I mean, amongst our group, quit is not. There's no quit in us.
Now,
you
do you
can't
think
have
you
that.
had that mentality before, like high school? Like, where did that come as a result after,
I don't think so. I think it's just intrinsically in all of
Yeah.
us. Like, and we just are able to manifest it and apply it to our like adult lives.
Yeah.
But I think it was always there. I mean, me and Vinnie hustled in our band.
Mm-hmm.
Like we figured out ways to pay for recording and where we're going to practice, and like there was always a problem that we had to solve. Where we're going to get equipment from, like how are we going to talk our parents into buying us this that we needed for our band, or how are we going to talk my mom into letting us play in her garage, like all hours of the day and night.
I use film as an example, but I think that there's a lot of majors that are kind of like you can learn on your own, and they might be a little redundant in college. And then there's a lot of majors like engineering, or I don't want my doctor to be a dropout that learned from YouTube,
Right.
But like I do think there's a lot of majors that might just be a 4-year vacation with disposable income. But at the same time, when you think about that other option of just dropping out and figuring it out yourself, it's kind of, I guess scary is a
It's
lazy
daunting.
word, but yeah, it's just kind of like knowing a lot of people. I've met a lot of people in my life. Like we mentioned earlier, a lot of people need that structure and they need that direction and guidance.
A lot of people are really good at following stereotypes and rules and whatever society has set out for you to be.
And a lot of people
Like,
need that.
Right. You're supposed to graduate high school, go to college, get a job, get married, have a kid, retire. That's your life.
Right.
Like that's
so,
just
like,
the typical.
Looking back, like what qualities or traits would you say is like what makes you guys different from like being contributing, functioning members of society versus somebody else who dropped out and is a mess, you know?
I would say our ability to put up the blinders and like not worry about the outside world. Like it's just our, I mean, this is at least for me, but I see it with these guys too. Like I don't give a fuck what anybody else is doing. Like I'm just going to make my world happen.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make my world happen well. Like daily, and there's no failure. Like shit's just gonna get done. Doesn't matter about my education. I don't give a fuck about your master's degree. Like I'm gonna do just as good as you or better, and watch me and tell me I can't do it.
Right.
It's determination, dude. Fuck your standards. You know what I mean? We're gonna get it done no matter what way we got to do it.
So
I dig it. I think we can end on that note. I don't think
dude.
it gets better than that.
I'm getting pretty hungry, so
Yeah, I'm getting hungry too. So what are we doing for cheesesteaks here?
Where are we going?
Doc's Deli in Lansdowne. If that's
Doc's Deli Landsdowne? Yeah,
you ever
sounds
been
good. Actually, it was just recommended to me by a friend. So
Good.
yeah,
There we go.
That'll be perfect.
Doc's is good, man. You'll enjoy
All
it.
right, let's do it. We are here in deep Delco with these idiots that dropped out of high school. No, but for real, had a really cool conversation just about taking a different path. And what we're about to get done right now is try out Doc's Deli. I went with Cooper, right? Another extra cheese. Classic whiz.
Call this an old fashioned.
Called and we asked for the recommendation. The guy who took the call said Cooper, which I was very surprised. I think Cooper, I think pinkies up. Here in Deep Delco, you don't get the kind of snobby vibe that you would usually go with Cooper. So
the outside appearance is completely deceptive.
You walk in there and there's tasty cake wrap.
that's in your way. It's not like something to catch your eye, maybe. It's something like you need to reach over these tasty cakes and consciously decide to not get some. Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna lie.
She's a hefty girl.
This looks beautiful.
It's something else.
Pretty fine presentation right there.
This looks like a cheesesteak you would see in a picture.
Very
Usually
strong
you don't get
cheesesteak
that.
in here.
Oh wow, that's a beautiful looking cheesesteak.
This is Delco right here. Parking on the sidewalk, basement food, delicious.
Graffiti with death threats, mattress in the parking lot.
Totally Delco.
I'm just not the biggest Cooper guy.
I'll swap the other half with it.
I'm down to swap.
Get the first cheesesteak swap too.
No.
No. Oh, Vinnie, I appreciate that. I appreciate you knowing.
We
it.
all
I'm a
watch.
subscriber.
We all watch and we're all subscribed, but Vinny definitely is.
My guy.
I usually do ketchup. I'll even throw pickles on there sometimes.
Mm.
I did nothing but straight steak and cheese this time with onion.
You know, of all people, Delco Dan goes with ketchup.
Tell you what, man, that
So-
film that cheesesteak better make everything get ready.
You got pickles on it?
Pickles, ketchup, and bacon.
I judged him a little bit there, I'm not gonna lie.
That man can do whatever he damn well.
The Cooper needs ketchup.
It's a little dry, isn't it?
That's, yeah.
I will say I have been a little generous in my ratings and looking back in my first season. This is the final episode of season 1. And I'm going to try to scale that back a little bit. But you also have to understand, I'm in Philadelphia. There's not too many places around here that are going to do a bad job of making cheesesteaks.
You
So
get chewed up in the comments for that.
don't get enough views to get a lot of comments yet. But maybe one day I will.
And I'm going to say, extra American cheese with fried onions, solid 8.9. It's like, it ranks pretty high up for me.
You've been quiet back there, Vinny. You're the only one that went with whiz.
Yeah, and mine was not dry whatsoever, and I think 7, 8-ish, 7, 8, 7, 9.
This might have been the first cheesesteak I had with Cooper sharp cheese. I don't think Cooper's the play.
I don't think Cooper's play here. I think Doc's is trying to be something that it's not. We're in Landsdowne. We're not in Bryn Mawr, Doc's.
Like I
You
said,
know?
I think they're trying to gentrify the cheesesteak.
They're trying to gentrify the cheesesteak.
I'm not disappointed with it. We're just at 7.6.
7.6, like 76ers. So 7.6 is baseline Philly
That's what I'm
cheesesteak.
going with, 7.6.
I had the privilege of trying both. Very disappointed in the Cooper Sharp. That's my second Cooper Sharp cheesesteak, and just not a fan of it. The rest of the meat, the bread was good. I'm gonna give it a 7 for the Cooper. For the American, if it wasn't extra cheese, I don't know how dry it would be. So I'm gonna give it a baseline. It's not it's definitely not a Philly cheesesteak. I'll give it a 7.8. I'll go with a 7.8 with the cheese.
Let's put it this: if you're coming to Philly, get the whiz. It was the way it was meant to be. That baby was moist.